China's military just got a brutal reality check. And it didn't come from a battlefield exercise or a war game simulation. It came from watching the United States operate in real time. In less than 10 days, American forces demonstrated capabilities that Beijing has been quietly hoping it would never have to face. Precision, speed, scale, and an ability to dismantle an entire country's military infrastructure before it even has time to respond. For Chinese President Xi Jinping, who has been building toward a potential move on Taiwan, what just happened is not just a headline, it's a strategic crisis. Here's what the US just proved, why it matters for China, and why analysts believe Xi is now being forced to rethink everything. The first thing the US demonstrated was its ability to shut down an adversary's eyes and ears before a single bomb officially drops. According to intelligence analyst and cybersecurity expert Ryan Macbeth, the opening phase was not airstrikes, it was a coordinated operation across air, space, and cyber domains specifically designed to destroy sensor networks and sever command and control communications. The result? The opposing side lost the ability to see what was coming, coordinate a response, or even communicate with its own forces. Lawfare Media reported that this cyber campaign was directly linked to the precise timing of strikes on senior leadership, because once communications were compromised, US intelligence could monitor internal meetings in real time and act on that information. By the time a response could even be organized, thousands of targets had already been destroyed. Now here's why this is a major problem for Beijing specifically. China's strategy for Taiwan is not primarily a ground invasion, it's a missile campaign. But a missile campaign only works if the people at the launch sites can receive orders. If command and control goes dark, and the US just proved it can make that happen, China's missile force becomes nearly useless. That's the first lesson Xi is now processing, and it gets worse from there. The second demonstration was pure firepower, but at a volume that caught even seasoned defense analysts off guard. On day one alone, US forces struck approximately 1,000 targets. Within the first week, that number climbed past 3,000 strikes, hitting 43 naval vessels and systematically dismantling drone and missile production facilities. The result? Drone launches were reduced by 83%. Ballistic missile attacks dropped by 90% compared to the first attempts at retaliation. Macbeth described it this way: instead of a hurricane followed by a tidal wave like Operation Desert Storm, we give the adversary 1,000 tornadoes on the first night. That's the critical shift. The US no longer builds toward a massive strike. It starts at maximum intensity and maintains it. For Xi, this creates a fundamental problem. China has built one of the largest missile arsenals on the planet, 550 intercontinental ballistic missile launchers, 300 medium-range launchers, 250 short-range launchers, 300 intermediate-range launchers, and 150 ground-launched cruise missile launchers. That's roughly 1,550 launch platforms in total. But here's what the Pentagon's strategy in recent operations revealed. The US doesn't chase the missiles, it goes after the launchers. If China's launch sites become targets from day one, those launchers have to keep moving to survive. And a launcher that's constantly relocating is a launcher that isn't firing. China's missile advantage degrades without the US even needing to destroy every unit. The threat alone is enough to compromise the strategy. That brings us to the third thing the US just proved, and this one is the most significant for Xi personally. The US and its allies demonstrated a clear doctrine in this conflict. Leadership, from the very top, is a legitimate military objective. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was eliminated in the opening hours of the campaign. According to reporting, the cyber operations we mentioned earlier were key to tracking his internal movements. The US identified a high-level meeting, confirmed the timing, and the strike was executed. Approximately 40 of Iran's top military commanders were also removed in the initial wave of strikes. This is what Xi is now staring at. China has extensive underground bunker infrastructure. Iran had similar protections, and it didn't matter. Macbeth's assessment is direct. If US intelligence decides it wants to help an ally find something that's extremely well protected, it can, at least sometimes. At least sometimes is enough to change every calculation Xi makes. And the situation inside China's military command structure makes this even more precarious. In recent weeks, Xi has removed several senior generals and nearly 24 officials from key positions, reportedly to consolidate control. In peacetime, that's a power move. In a conflict with a US that specifically targets the chain of command, removing your most experienced officers and replacing them with loyalists could mean the entire structure collapses the moment leadership is disrupted. Xi is watching Iran go through that collapse in real time. The question he has to ask himself is whether China would survive the same scenario. But the military dimension is only half of this story. There's a geopolitical element that may actually be more damaging, and we're covering that next. As its military infrastructure came under pressure, Iran began striking US-aligned nations in the Gulf region, Bahrain, Kuwait, the UAE, and others, in an attempt to create regional pressure on American forces. It's a miscalculation. Rather than fracturing US alliances, these strikes are pushing neutral and friendly nations closer to Washington. Iran is not weakening the coalition, it's expanding it. Macbeth notes that China would face the same dynamic and potentially faster. The US maintains military bases in South Korea, Japan, Australia, and the Philippines. If China moves on Taiwan and the US responds, China would need to strike those bases to degrade American operational capacity. But doing so immediately brings those four nations into direct conflict with Beijing. What should be a regional operation becomes a multi-nation war, all opposing China. And when it comes to allies who might stand with Beijing, the picture is stark. Russia is geographically distant and has received no direct military support from China during its own conflict in Ukraine. Iran, once considered a meaningful partner, is now being systematically dismantled. And China's primary tool of geopolitical influence, economic investment through development programs, offers nothing to smaller nations when bullets are flying. The Diplomat published an analysis on March 7th that summarized it clearly. Beijing's influence consistently peaks at signing ceremonies and fades when security risks arise. China has built a global presence based on financial leverage. The US has built one based on military presence, 750 bases across 80 countries. When a crisis escalates to open conflict, only one of those strategies translates into real support. Xi is watching China's allies do nothing as one of its most significant partners comes under pressure. That silence speaks louder than any bilateral agreement.
What the United States has demonstrated in this conflict is not just military capability, it's a complete strategic playbook. Blind the enemy first, strike at scale immediately, target leadership from day one, and let the alliance network do the rest. For Xi Jinping, who has spent years preparing for a potential move on Taiwan, with 2027 frequently cited by analysts as a key window, this is not a distant concern. It is a direct preview of what China would face if it miscalculates. The military gap, the command vulnerability, the alliance isolation, all of it has been put on display in the span of a single week. Whether Xi recalibrates his timeline, restructures his strategy, or presses forward anyway is the defining geopolitical question of the next few years. But one thing is certain, the playbook is no longer theoretical. The US just ran it, and Beijing was watching every